In this video, we will show you how to replace your front wheel bearing assembly. On this Dodge Ram, this will be located behind your front wheel. Let's get into it. Okay friends, let's get started on our job. The first thing we'll do is safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. Once you've done that, we'll continue on to removing the center cover and then all 8 of our 24mm lug nuts. Remove your wheel. With the wheel out of the way, the next thing we'll do is continue on to dismounting the ABS wire from this area. Find one little bracket right here. We'll just lift that up and out of there. Now we can come along the flex hose here. There we are. Let's continue following that ABS wire. We'll use a trim tool to separate this from the flex hose. Continue separating the ABS wire from your flex hose all the way up here. Now you'll find another mounting point up along the frame. Let's grab that with the trim tool here. You'll find that the connector is up inside the engine compartment. Here it is, right along the top of your front shock. For this, you'll find that you have a small locking tab right up along where my index finger is. We'll squeeze this in and give it a little tug to separate it. Give each end a quick inspection for corrosion. We can set that aside. We'll use our trim tool to separate this from the inside fender liner. Let's move along to removing our caliper from the area. To do this, you'll find that you have 2 12.16mm headed bolts. We'll start with this one up along the top. We're going to loosen this, but leave it in just a couple threads. Quick inspection on that. Now let's carefully grab that caliper. We'll slide it away from the brake rotor. At this point, you can have a look at the brake pads. If it looks like they need to be replaced, now's the perfect time to do it. We'll set this aside. Remove the brake rotor. Quick inspection. Set it aside. Along the outside of the wheel bearing is where you're going to find your axle nut. We'll use some cutters and remove the cotter pin here. Now we can remove our axle nut using a 1 11/16 socket. Behind that, you'll find you have a washer. Remove that as well. Quick inspection on these. We will be reusing them. A little bit of penetrant. We'll let this sit here and do its job, and we can make our way along the back side of the knuckle. Now that we've removed that nut, let's make our way along the back side of the knuckle. What we're going to be looking for on our application is 4 14mm headed mounting bolts that hold the wheel bearing to the knuckle. Now we can start separating the wheel bearing from the hub. To do this, we'll just give it a couple loving bonks with a hammer, trying to drive it away from the vehicle. Now if this is broken free, we can remove this. Get the backing plate out of there. This should be in much better condition. There it is, friends. Let's continue on with a wire brush. We're going to clean up the mounting area where the wheel bearing will sit. Along the inside here, and then you also want to try to get along this area, right where the bearing is going to press up against. Once you fully clean the area, use some anti-seize all along this inboard side here and along this flush edge. Aside from that, we'll also be coating the splined area of our axle. You don't necessarily need to cover the threaded area. Now there should be a backing plate in between the bearing and the hub assembly. Ours was rotted and damaged, so I'll be leaving it out. If yours is still good, you should be reusing it. Just go ahead and slide that in place. Let's get this on here. There we are. Slide that up. We have the ABS wire up along the top. Now we can continue on bringing this over. Slide that onto the bracket. Let's continue mounting in the wheel bearing to the steering knuckle. We'll start in all 4 of our mounting bolts. Once they're started in, you can go ahead and snug them up and then torque them to 122 foot-pounds. Do the same over here. Okay, let's prepare to put on our rotor. Before you do so, you want to make sure that you clean up the backside here on the mating surface. We'll use some parts cleaner for that. If you need to, you can also use a wire brush. This one looks pretty good. After that, we'll continue on with some anti-seize along the mating surface. Now we can put that rotor on there. Typically when I do this, I'm going to use a lug nut, and I want to put it on to try to hold the rotor in place. Let's continue on to the caliper. We'll be sliding that right on over the rotor. We'll get this in place. Start in each of your mounting bolts. Snug them up, torque them to 130 foot-pounds. Let's make our way over and resecure our ABS wire along the flex hose. We'll just take this and press it into the plastic brackets. We've got this area that goes into the flex hose. We'll make sure that that's secured as well. Press right in there. Let's get this in here. Should come right up here. One more. Let's get this little plastic bracket into the frame here. There we are. Now we can take that electrical connector and we'll slide it up and behind the inside wheel well here. We'll make sure that we connect that in before we take this for a road test. Now we can get this lug nut off of here. We're going to continue on by putting on the wheel. We'll start on all of the lug nuts and snug them up. We'll get the wheel back on the ground and we can continue on with the axle nut and torque everything as needed. With the wheel safely on the ground, we'll continue on torquing these in a crisscross manner to 135 foot-pounds. We can continue on with our axle washer and the axle nut. We'll bottom this out and then torque that to 180 foot-pounds. When you're tightening this, it's a good idea to make sure that you never use an air tool because you don't want to damage the bearing. Now we can torque this to 180 foot-pounds. Torqued. Now that we have that torqued to 180 foot-pounds, we'll continue on with a brand new locking cotter pin. Slide that right on through the slot here. We'll pin it over. Continue on to your center cover. Looking along the back, you'll find that you have 4 of these ports that will fit right over your lug nuts. Now that we've done all that, let's make our way into that engine compartment. We're going to reattach the ABS wire. Squeeze that together, listen for a click. Give it a tug to make sure they're secured together, and then we'll resecure it to the fender liner. Okay friends, we've got the truck back together. At this point, you can go ahead and take it for a road test down to your local alignment shop. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.